Welcome back to the Ruck Shop's YouTube channel. In today's video we will be going over the installation of the TRS, RRGS, NCY drum adapter. This is going to allow you to run your factory front wheel and drum brakes along with aftermarket forks. So right away we're going to get right into this installation. Okay, so now we're in front of the bike. We have on our little jack over here on the side. For this install, you're going to need a 5mm Allen. We're using a 6mm Allen for the triple tree bolts. Your factory ones, I believe, are going to be 10 or 12 mil. You're also going to need a 12 mil socket and a 17 mil socket for the factory front axle. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that the bike is sturdy. I'll get the front wheel off. We'll start by removing the front axle with the 17 and 12 mil. Okay, so now that I just used the 12 and 17 mil and pulled the front axle out, what I'm going to do is take this front side fork, the one that has the speedo and the front brake cable, and I'm just going to rotate it out like so. And you can see there's a little notch on the fork itself, and that's what locks into the factory speedo hub. On the opposing side, you're going to see a spacer that looks like this. And we're going to go ahead and put that to the side and just go on and roll the front wheel out like so. And the front speedo hub will just slide right out. I'm going to put it down for the time being. For this triple tree, the factory bolts have been replaced, so I'll be using an Allen head to remove this. Your factory ones will be a hex head, like a socket head. So I'll go ahead and get these loosened up. The top bolt on these triple trees kind of acts like a security bolt. It goes through a little rib section on the top of the fork, and you'll notice that with the forks that you replace with it as well, that there's a little notch on it, and that's for the bolt to go through. So loosening it, you can see the notch right there, and what happens is when the bolt goes through the triple tree, it secures itself in that notch. Now that that's loose, drop this fork out. So now we have our aftermarket forks here. These are the taller NCY forks, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting these in. So just like that factory fork, there's a groove right there. You can start to put the bolt in, and you're going to feel it catch right there on the bolt. And then that's where you're going to go ahead and hand tighten this in. And it's going to secure the fork in place. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the opposite side. Next step, you're going to take the two M8 bolts that are included with the kit and your bracket, and we're going to hook them up to the new fork. So if you look, the fork has this design here as well as the adapter. So what you're going to do is, of course, always use some red Loctite, put it through there and into the adapter. Now you want the side that has the almost machined spacing to be facing in, because what's going to happen on the opposing side here is, let's see if I can get that angle, this is going to sit flush with the groove right with the flat spot of the fork right here. So that will all line up perfect. We're going to go ahead and put some red Loctite on these bolts and tighten it up. And this is what's going to use the 5mm Allen head. Next up, you'll notice that you receive two spacers. There's going to be a longer one and a shorter one. The shorter of the two is going to slide right here in the bottom of your fork that has the adapter. And the longer of the two will slide in on the opposing side. Now what these are shim. Your aftermarket forks are set up for a 12mm axle, and your factory ruckus axle is 10mm. So if you were to try to put this in without using those, your axle has 2mm of room on each side for it to bounce around. These shims are going to keep it tight while you have the wheel and assembly all together. Now if you remember, in the beginning of the video, we took out the spacer, the factory spacer here, from the left side. In the kit, you're going to receive a spacer that's just a little bit smaller. You got to make sure you use this one, and it's going to go again on the outside fork. So what we'll do is we will line the speedo hub back into a wheel like we had before, start to roll it in, and then just like we did previously, we're going to go ahead and turn this fork and slide it into the groove. Now you can take your machine spacer and insert it into the wheel on the other side and line it up with the fork. The last step is going to be to insert the axle. You're going to want to insert the axle through that shim and into the wheel. I'm gonna have to lift my wheel up just a little bit because it's not centered. So now that you have the axle coming through on the opposing side of the wheel, like you said, here's the new spacer. You could slide that in, and then also it recesses into the wheel a little bit. Then you can line up your sleeve that you have here with the bushing, or the spacer, apologize, and you're just going to want to tap that in. Now I'm using a rubber mallet on the other side here to kind of just persuade it through. And as you can see, the sleeve stayed in. You're going to go ahead and take that 17mm nut, put it back on, and then we'll go ahead and tighten it up on both ends. So there you have it, the installation of the TRS RRGS drum adapter. This allows you to run any aftermarket fork that we sell with your factory front wheel and front drum. Very easy install, not too bad. As you can see, and now you can either lower or raise the front of your Honda Ruckus. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.